in Central and Eastern Europe of countries that actually do want to be part of the West, want to engage with the United States and Europe, want to feel themselves to possess the same sort of values. And I think you can find, in addition to some liberal internationalists who were very much in favor of pursuing an agenda that would allow NATO to expand and that would draw these countries in and try to anchor them in Western institutions and solidify their own internal democratic processes and develop their economies in a market direction and so forth. In addition to that, you also have a real sense at the time that that this is an important new project in the spread of freedom, and that is something that I think the neocons were very much engaged in. So now on to the present, and I don't want to. At the end of the Bush administration, the death of neoconservatism was pronounced as it has been in the past, and yet I find no particular evidence that this strain has disappeared, and I think there's a reason for that. And it's that neoconservatism, which is difficult to speak of in the sense that it is, at best one's talking about an ideal type. By which I don't mean a pinnacle. I mean in the sense of an idea, a set of ideas. Professor Thompson has his spin on those, his take on those ideas. I think I would have another one, obviously. But again, it is as he notes rather hard to wrap your arms around. The animal, because there is no spokesman, there is no central authority on the question of what neoconservatives think. There are only neoconservative thinkers, many of whom disagree with each other. But if you had to say, well, what is this current in American intellectual life, and what does it bring to the table that enables it to persist from 1965 through 2011 without any sign of serious diminution of its authority, influence, attraction. I think I would say that it is because neoconservatism is both soft and hard. It is hard in the sense that it understands power, and it seeks to understand political power, military power, other forms of power. And through the understanding, better understanding of these things, to really try to understand better how to manage what is inarguably the world's most powerful nation. There was a time when we had a bipolar order, and there was a central struggle over real power in the world, and there were things like proxy wars in Central America and Africa. That was a moment at which clear thinking about power was very important, and I think in a number of articles and commentary and elsewhere, some very major contributions were made by neoconservatives to the understanding of that conflict and what it meant to wage it and what its implications are. But also, neoconservatism is soft, and it's soft in the sense that it's concerned about ideas, and not just any ideas, and not just the ideas of philosophers or of Plato, but actually of freedom. And I think the neoconservative emphasis on freedom has been at the heart of the project for quite some time. There was the neoconservative critique of capitalism, which was developed by Irving Kristol and Daniel Bell. Bell in the Cultural Contradictions of Capitalism, and Irving in several major consequential essays that are still worth reading today, was essentially a riff on an extension of Weber's analysis of capitalism, namely that the system depended on certain virtues that it did not itself produce, and that in fact, in some respects, it acted to undermine. So this was not a critique of capitalism that was aimed at the undermining of capitalism. On the contrary, it was aimed at the preservation of capitalism. And it's worthwhile to remember just exactly how left-leaning much public opinion was in the 1970s, when many people still thought that wage and price controls were a good idea, and more than that, that there was in no sense among liberals on the left side of the political spectrum, which is to say not classical liberals, there was no sense of chastity with regard to their ambitions for government, for the public purse, et cetera. There was a let it all kind of hang out moment. So this is these ideas about freedom are absolutely central, I think, to understanding neoconservatism, both its domestic element and its foreign elements. And they are classically liberal ideas. Their affinity is with Locke and with Mill, and not with others. This soft and hard element, I think, stands in somewhat in contrast with a purely hard view, which does exist in American society. It's, in some respects, in foreign policy, it's neo-realist. But I suppose if you it was also you know, if you have any sympathy for people in Tunisia or Egypt or Libya fighting authoritarian governments, then you're probably a little more on the neocon end of the spectrum. And if you have more sympathy for the idea of stability and order that would result from keeping autocrats in power and keeping a lid on things and preventing the possibility of illiberal, anti-democratic forces coming to power through democratic means, then you would be, I think, in this harder realist vein that I'm describing. And of course, there's a soft strain, and that's very much the mushy liberalism that we've all come to know and understand that large elements of it consist of wishing the world was a different place from what it is, and then learning or not learning as a result of its stubborn action against what one expects. So this soft and hard element of neoconservatism is, I think, what accounts for its persistence. It's why it's going to be around for a long time to come. And we can talk a little bit about Strauss if you want to in the Q&A, and we can get into the more philosophical elements and charges, countercharges that Professor Thompson raises. But let me just say that I think that the connection between Strauss and neoconservatism is not complicated. I think it's explicable in that Strauss was seriously interested in philosophical ideas and seriously interested in the question of politics and politics, including the power elements of it that were then increasingly out of vogue in the academy. It used to be if you wanted to study power, you might go to Sam Huntington or Hans Morgenthau, people like that. There was a very robust conversation there, and it was not distinctly neoconservative. It was hard in the sense in which I had described it earlier. But by the time the present generation, say Wolfowitz on, I suppose Wolfowitz is sort of the linchpin of the argument in some sense for those who would like to draw a diabolical connection between Strauss and neoconservatism. By then, I think you might be attracted to Strauss or the Straussians because they talked seriously about serious things, including power and how it operates, and you wouldn't necessarily have an outlet for thinking about things like that in other ways. And if you thought, for whatever reason, that was going to be important for your country in the years ahead, then that would be a good place to learn something about it, not for the purpose of a long-range project of the internal subversion of your country, but in fact to ensure that it was capable of thriving in a very challenging international environment, and one that continues to be challenging today. Thank you.